Have you ever tried to imagine the everyday struggles African Americans quietly battled through in the 1960s? Things so routine back then that they'd shock you to your core today? You think you know, but when you sit with it, when you picture yourself waking up in that world, stepping into those shoes, breathing that air, suddenly it isn't just history anymore. It's a heartbeat. It's the taste of pride held tight behind clenched teeth. It's fear threading through an ordinary Tuesday. Over the next few minutes, you're stepping back into that time, not as a spectator, but as someone living it, feeling the small indignities, carrying the big ones, and recognizing that beneath every moment was a determination to survive, to protect your dignity, and to hold on to hope. Let's walk together, one memory at a time. 1. Giving up your seat on the bus. Imagine stepping onto a city bus after a long shift, your feet sore, your back tight. You drop a few coins into the slot and automatically turn not left, but right, toward the back. That's where you go. Not because there isn't space elsewhere, but because the law says so. The hum of the engine mixes with the smell of diesel and tired bodies, and you keep your eyes low. You sit, you finally exhale, then you feel it. A shadow, a pause, a white passenger standing near you. You already know, no words yet, but you feel your dignity slipping because the expectation is clear. You stand. Every muscle resists, but you rise anyway. Not to be polite? No, this isn't courtesy. This is survival. Context? It was more than an unspoken rule. Refusal could mean arrest or worse. Rosa Parks wasn't an isolated story. She was the spark of a fire that kept burning into the 1960s. Today you tap a card, sit where you want, scroll your phone, complain about delays. No one demands you prove your humanity before taking a seat. Would you have the courage to stay seated back then, or the wisdom to stand, just to make it home alive? 2. Drinking from the wrong water fountain. Picture a hot summer afternoon, throat dry, sweat sliding down the back of your neck. You spot a water fountain, cool metal, condensation collecting on the spout. For a moment, your body reacts like any human body would. Relief. You lean in, and then you catch yourself. That fountain is gleaming, polished, the sign above it. White only. Yours, the one you're allowed to touch, sits around the corner. Smaller, rust creeping along the edges, pressure low. Water not always clear, and you drink anyway because thirst doesn't care about laws, but the world you live in does. In the South, that sign hung like a threat. In the North, they didn't need the sign. The looks told you enough. Now, you complain when the airport fountain tastes a little metallic. But imagine being forced to choose dehydration over humiliation. Be honest, how many small moments like that would you swallow before anger boiled over? 3. Being refused service at a lunch counter. It's lunchtime downtown. Your stomach growls as you smell sizzling burgers and hear plates clinking. You walk into a little corner diner, just wanting a sandwich and maybe a Coke. You take a seat at the chrome counter, smooth and cool beneath your fingertips. But the room stiffens. A waiter looks through you. A manager frowns. Someone says, "We don't serve your kind." Maybe it's loud. Maybe it's a whisper. Sometimes they didn't even speak. They'd simply ignore you until you left or the police came. You remember the students in Greensboro? Young, polished, carrying books like shields, sitting straight-backed while insults rained down, food dumped on their heads, cigarettes pressed near their skin. Arrested for trying to buy lunch. Meanwhile, today you order food from your phone and complain if it takes more than 15 minutes. Could you sit calmly while someone smeared hatred across your dignity just because you wanted a meal? 4. Climbing to the balcony in a movie theater. It's Saturday night, a soft breeze. The street smells like popcorn and warm pavement. You saved a little money all week for this, just to watch a movie and forget the world for 2 hours. You walk into the theater. The velvet seats below look plush, inviting. But you already know your path. You climb narrow stairs, up and up to the balcony. The colored section, hotter, crammed. Sometimes the picture looks warped from your angle. Sometimes you can't even see the actor's eyes from up there. Below, white families laugh together, legs stretched, breeze from the main fans brushing their skin. Up here, the air is still. You hold your ticket and you hold your composure. Today, you stream movies in bed, lights off, comfort at your fingertips. Imagine needing courage just to buy a ticket. Would you still love movies if everyone meant climbing stairs built to remind you of your place? These first moments were just part of the ordinary, the part no one wrote headlines about. The part lived between breaths, between sips of water, between steps up a staircase you didn't choose. We remember the marches, the speeches, the triumphs, but you and I both know life isn't lived in speeches. It's lived in line at the bus stop, at the fountain, at the counter, in the balcony. day after day, choosing dignity in a world designed to deny it. And as we keep walking through this time together, I want you to keep asking yourself, not just what happened, but how it must have felt. Because that's where history becomes memory, and memory becomes understanding. Tell me, so far, which moment shook you most? 5. Being turned away from parks and pools. It's a Sunday afternoon. The sun is sharp and honey gold. Kids laughing, jump ropes slapping pavement, cicadas buzzing. You want something simple? Grass beneath your feet, a picnic blanket, maybe a cool dip in the pool. But when you walk up to the park gate, you don't just get stopped. You get blocked. A uniformed man, a posted sign, and a quiet stare that says, "You don't belong past this line." In some towns, it wasn't just a look. It was a police baton resting in a palm, tapping, warning. Pools were even worse. A rope separating swimmers. Lifeguards ready to blow a whistle the second your toe touched the water. And God help you if you tried, because white crowds could turn from silent to violent in a heartbeat. So you turn back. The grass and shade becomes someone else's luxury. Your park is a dusty lot behind a church. Your pool might be a metal tub in a backyard, water warming in the sun. Today, most people complain if a public pool is too crowded. Back then, you prayed not to be shoved out or beaten for wanting to cool off. Would you have the strength to smile for your children anyway, to pretend that little patch of heat-baked earth was paradise? 6. Sending your child to an underfunded school. Morning light spills across your kitchen table, a lunch wrapped in wax paper, a kiss on a forehead. Your child, bright-eyed, curious, full of questions, sets off toward a school that's miles away because there's no bus for your neighborhood. Their shoes scrape gravel, their backpack bounces, and when they arrive, a building with peeling paint. Too many students to a classroom, desks wobbly, sometimes shared. Books with pages torn out, hand-me-downs from white schools, teachers doing their best with half the pay and a fraction of the supplies. You want your child to dream, but you watch them. Battle a system designed to shrink those dreams down, small enough to fit inside invisible walls. Today, parents post pictures of pristine classrooms and complain about supply lists. Back then, you gathered pennies so your child could have a pencil, and still prayed a teacher had chalk that week. Would you keep believing in your child's brilliance when the world kept insisting the opposite? 7. Walking into school through mobs of hate. Now imagine your child wasn't just under-resourced, but threatened for wanting equal learning. Picture yourself gripping your child's hand, walking toward a school that doesn't want them. Shouts rip through the air, ugly words poisoning the morning. Grown adults screaming inches from a child's face. Spit hitting the ground, a rock skimming past. Soldiers or police standing guard, rifles gleaming in the sun. Think of Little Rock. Those students didn't face one angry day. It continued. Day after day, through hallways, classrooms, cafeteria lines, you kiss your child goodbye at the gate, knowing you can't protect them once they cross that threshold. Today, the biggest school fear for many kids is a pop quiz. Back then, a school day could break a spirit or forge steel inside a young heart. Could you send your child anyway? 8. Being blocked from voting by humiliation and fear. It's election day. You put on your best clothes, pressed shirt, polished shoes, Sunday pride, and you walk to the courthouse. Your heart beats fast. You don't show it, but you feel it. You recite in your head the preamble to the Constitution because you've heard they ask that sometimes. You studied the night before, like someone preparing for a trial, not a vote. You step up and they hand you a test. Maybe it's reading an obscure passage. Maybe it's guessing bubbles in a jar. Maybe it's explaining a section of law scholars barely understand. It doesn't matter, because no matter how perfectly you answer, they stamp your paper failed. And even then, the real threat isn't the test. It's who might see you here. A boss? A sheriff? A man with a shotgun leaning against a truck fender not too far away. In 2025, people skip voting because it's not convenient. In the 1960s, you risked your safety for a ballot you might never get to cast. Would you try again next election? Or would fear finally wear you down? 9. Worshipping through the threat of terror. Sunday morning, gospel voices rise, children straighten little ties and bows. You breathe in. The sanctuary's warm, familiar scent, perfume, hymn books, polished wood. Church isn't just worship, it's safety, community, identity. And yet, the fear lives here too. You sit on a pew knowing someone, somewhere, sees your joy as defiance, your faith as threat. In Birmingham, little girls got dressed for Sunday school, ribbons in hair, smiles bright, and never came home. A bomb tore through sacred space, stealing young lives simply for existing in black innocence. You pray with one eye on the door, and still you sing. Not because you're unafraid, but because fear doesn't get to own your spirit. Today, most worry about parking near church. Back then, you prayed the service ended with amen, not sirens. Would you still walk through those doors every week, knowing joy itself was an act of rebellion? 10. Surviving police protection that felt like threat. Now picture this. You're driving home from work, hands at 10 and 2, license ready before they even ask. Lights flash behind you, heart drops. You breathe shallow, keep your voice calm, because one wrong move isn't an inconvenience. It could be the last mistake you ever make. In the 1960s, police didn't just enforce racist law, they embodied it. Beatings during protests, stops without cause, brutality without consequence. A badge could feel like a weapon, a uniform like a warning. Today, people film traffic stops on smartphones. Back then, witnesses didn't matter, evidence didn't matter, your word didn't matter. Would you ever truly relax, knowing the law only protected you on paper, not in the street? These weren't just moments, they were oxygen, breathed daily, restrictions on joy, barriers to dignity, constant calculations. Do I speak? Do I step aside? Do I risk my life just to be human? And still, people lived, loved, raised children, built beauty, created culture, worked, worshiped, laughed when they could, fought when they must. They carried trauma, and they carried hope. Tell me, if you were there, which everyday moment so far would have pushed you closest to breaking? 11. Being watched for simply wanting equality. It's late evening, the dinner dishes are stacked, kids tucked into bed. You sit at your kitchen table with a notebook, planning a voter drive, a church meeting, maybe just writing a prayer for strength. And then you pause, because somewhere a wire hums, a line clicks. There's this lingering question in your chest. Who's listening? You're not plotting a crime. You're asking for dignity. But in the 1960s, that was enough to make you suspicious. Activists, pastors, teachers, ordinary people found themselves under surveillance. Phones tapped, mail opened, neighbors asked questions by men in dark suits. If you gathered 3 people in your living room to talk about civil rights, someone might call it radical, and the FBI could call you a threat. Today, people broadcast their opinions online without a second thought. But imagine having to whisper about fairness. Imagine checking over your shoulder before saying the word vote. Would you keep speaking up, knowing every call might be recorded and every whisper could be used against you? 12. Being pushed into the lowest paying jobs, no matter your talent. Now picture this. Monday morning, the alarm rings before dawn. You tie worn-out shoes, grab a lunch pail, and step into a world that decided your worth before it ever saw your work. Maybe you're sharp with numbers. Maybe your hands can build anything. Maybe you dreamed of engineering, medicine, teaching. But in the 1960s, for millions of black workers, those dreams hit a wall. Doors shut by employers who didn't bother hiding their prejudice. Skilled work, management, office roles, those were reserved. You were pushed into domestic labor, field work, sweeping, hauling. Every paycheck a reminder that the world didn't see your skill, only your skin. Today, people quit jobs if they don't feel fulfilled. Back then, you felt lucky just to be paid at all. Would you still fight to excel, knowing society had already decided how far you could rise? 13. Being boxed into neighborhoods they called hazard zones. Close your eyes and imagine home, a sanctuary, a street where kids ride bikes, fresh paint on porches, a yard where you plant dreams. Now strip that away. Replace it with a neighborhood starved of funding, not by accident, but by design. Banks draw red lines on maps, labeling your community risky. Loans denied, stores scarce, trash pickup irregular, infrastructure crumbling. Not because you didn't work hard, but because policy said you weren't worth investment. You know the houses across town have green lawns and new sidewalks. You know the difference isn't effort, but access. Today, people browse Zillow like it's a hobby. Back then, just asking about a house in the wrong area could get you kicked out, or worse. Could you hold on to pride when the world tried to tell you your neighborhood defined your worth? 14. Paying more for worse housing. It's rent day. You walk into a landlord's office, hat in hand, dignity folded tight. You hand over cash for a cramped apartment with peeling paint, a failing heater, maybe rats scratching in the walls at night. You pay more than the white family 3 blocks away pays for twice the space. Not because you choose it, but because the system gives you no choice. In places like Chicago, this wasn't subtle. Black renters paid as much as 20% more for worse conditions, trapped by exploitative contracts, and fear that questioning the price could cost you your home. And yet you sweep your stoop. You plant flowers in old cans. You scrub linoleum until it shines. Because even if they deny you quality, they can't deny you pride. Today, tenants write reviews online. Back then, landlords held your life in a folder. No appeal, no protection. Would you keep your head up, knowing you were paying more just to live with less? 15. Walking miles to work because buses didn't come your way. It's early morning again. The world's still dark. You lace shoes already worn thin. Your breath floats in the cool air as you start walking. And walking, and walking. Not for fitness, not for leisure, but because the bus routes don't touch your neighborhood. By design, they connect white suburbs to opportunity. Your community, they left it out. And if buses do run, they're infrequent, unreliable, sometimes refusing to stop at all. You time your life around miles. Feet ache, knees stiffen, and still, you show up to work on time, sweat drying under your collar. Today, people complain when a rideshare costs a few dollars more. But imagine building your life around a commute designed to exhaust you into submission. Would you keep walking day after day, believing the journey would one day be shorter for your children? By now, you might feel something deep in your chest, like a weight pressing down. Good. That pressure, that's history breathing. That's empathy waking, because there's a truth we can't ignore. Survival wasn't just about dodging brutality. It was navigating the daily grind of indignity, invisible battles, quiet endurance, 10,000 tiny humiliations stacked like bricks on a soul. And yet, here's the miracle. You kept going. You laughed where you could. You loved fiercely. You braided hair, cooked Sunday dinners, ironed shirts sharp enough to slice doubt in half. You prayed. You fought. You held the line so the next generation might step forward in shoes that didn't rub raw. Tell me, of these everyday battles, which one etched itself deepest into your mind? Which shot straight to your heart? Because we're not done yet. There were more places where dignity was contested, more thresholds you couldn't cross without swallowing pride or risking life. And these next struggles, they cut even closer to the bone. Health, care, safety, and the simple right to exist in public without shame. Breathe. We're walking through the final pieces together. 16. Being denied access to public libraries. Imagine loving words. Books smell like freedom to you, ink and paper and possibility. You walk up the marble steps of the local library, heart beating a little faster at the thought of stories waiting inside. But the second you push that door, a librarian looks up, and the room shifts cold. Not here. Sometimes they said it with forced politeness. Sometimes they didn't mask the contempt. And sometimes police were called as if wanting to read made you dangerous. In cities across the South, Black patrons were barred from white libraries. In the North, they were pushed to understaffed branches with outdated books or denied service altogether. So you turn again. But maybe you joined the brave ones, the students who walked in anyway, sat quietly, read until they were dragged out. Because knowledge isn't a luxury for you, it's a weapon, a promise. Today, people skim headlines and complain about library late fees. Back then, you risked humiliation or arrest for a library card. Would you still reach for the shelves, knowing someone might yank your dreams from your hands? 17. Being treated as second class in hospitals. Picture the smell, antiseptic, and fear. You rush to the hospital clutching a loved one's hand, your child wheezing, your mother clutching her chest, your body screaming with pain. You step through those doors longing for help. Instead, they direct you to the back, a separate ward, fewer beds, fewer nurses, older equipment, delays that could mean life or death. And sometimes, they simply tell you there's no room at all. Some hospitals refused to treat Black patients entirely until federal pressure in 1966 forced desegregation through Medicare. Every minute in that waiting room feels like a prayer-fighting panic. People today grumble if they wait an hour in the ER. In the 1960s, you could wait yourself into grief if someone you loved needed care. And the front door meant not for you. How long before anger swallowed your hope? 18. Being forced to enter through back doors for medical visits. Now, imagine you're not in crisis. You just need a checkup. You dress in your Sunday best to preserve dignity. You sit in an office lobby, except you don't. A nurse points to a side entrance. Maybe it's a back alley door. Maybe it leads to a cramped room with faded chairs, a single stack of outdated magazines. You wait longer. You get called last. You see the same doctor, pay the same money, but not the same respect. Every time you do it, a piece of you fights to stay whole because you're sick or pregnant or worried. And on top of that, you must swallow pride to get care. Today, people switch doctors for bedside manner. Back then, dignity was a cost of survival. Could you walk through that back door again and again without letting rage hollow you out? 19. Being denied mortgages in white neighborhoods. Picture this. You served your country. You saved. You planned. You want a little house, yard, picket fence, kids running barefoot. The American promise. You walk into a bank, papers in hand. But when they see your address, your skin, suddenly terms change. Loans unavailable, or interest so high it becomes impossible. Suburbs like Levittown were openly closed to you. You know white veterans are moving into homes with low interest rates guaranteed by the government. You know their kids will grow up with better schools and safer streets. Meanwhile, you're forced into neighborhoods redlined as hazardous. where property values stagnate and banks refuse to invest. Generational wealth, stolen not once, but systemically, through signatures and policy. Today, people brag about mortgage approvals. Back then, you celebrated just hearing maybe. Would you keep dreaming of a house when the world kept locking every door? 20. Watching entire communities destabilized by real estate schemes. And then, when you do manage to move somewhere new, even in small numbers, someone starts whispering. Realtors knock on white doors, spreading fear. They're moving in. Panic spreads. Families flee. Prices swing. Slumlords swoop in. Services disappear. A neighborhood that might have been shared becomes weaponized instead. Blockbusting, panic peddling, predatory contracts. The destruction wasn't chaos. It was engineered. And you stand in the middle, watching a community be blamed for a collapse that was planned around them. Yet still, you paint your porch, plant flowers, sweep sidewalks, because you refuse to stop claiming space in a country built on the promise of belonging. Would you have the strength to keep building home from ruins someone else created? And breathe. We've walked through buses and water fountains, parks and schools, churches and hospital wards, waiting rooms and sidewalks, quiet battles and loud terrors, not grand speeches, but the small daily wounds that shape a life. This wasn't just history. It was heartbeat, persistence, dignity sharpened like a blade on the stone of oppression. This was waking up each day and saying, I will not disappear. And because of that, today someone drinks freely from a fountain, sits at any lunch counter, walks into any library, votes, rides a bus, lives where they choose, dreams bigger than survival. Those freedoms didn't arrive politely. They were wrestled from a world that swore you were asking for too much. But you asked anyway. You lived anyway. You rose anyway. And now I'll ask you, which of these everyday battles moved you the most? Which one made you stop, breathe, and feel history sitting beside you? Drop your answer in the comments. If this journey hit your heart, like the video and subscribe for more stories that honor truth, memory, and resilience. Because remembering isn't about the past, it's about protecting the future. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.